Hello and welcome to my space level design. This is a game set in a neo-futuristic 1950s Soviet-style spaceship. This is supposed to be a alternate reality where Russia is winning by magnitudes in terms of the space race, and one of their ships has slipped through a wormhole, and there is a new organism on board which has killed all of your crew, and your job is to uncover what's happening, try and save anyone, and ideally repair the Vostok Icarus, and deal with the organism and stop your ship from crashing into the asteroid field that it's currently in orbit with. So, you wake up in a medbay, dazed of not knowing where you are, and the intention for this room is to have a pale white light to let the player kind of feel like a sense of familiarity, but also make them feel trapped. This door is meant to be closed, but just for purposes of this, it's open. So the player here is supposed to be trapped in here, and they'll be taught that they can pick up objects, and they'll break through the glass here, and they'll escape straight into a laboratory. And I like doing when a player is forced to interact with their environment, they make more of a mental note of what's actually happening, and breaking through a window looking into an infirmary room, I think this is highlighting that you're in here not because people are looking after you, but because they're doing tests on you. Kind of giving some environmental storytelling as to what the real origin of the organism is. A viewpoint of the current situation, so reinforcing the dire circumstance and kind of letting the player implicitly know what's going on immediately from the first setup. That's immediately conveyed to the player. So I'll carry on. One thing that was really important to me of Sputnik is having clear affordances. So anytime you see a red light, that means something is unpowered and uninteractable. So for example, this door is closed, this vent is closed, this door is open, thus the green. So these are to show anything that would be interactable for the player and anything that the enemies can't go through. So therefore, these vents, I wanted this to kind of immediately be known to the player that this could be danger. And the red signifies that, but the red in this scenario means the player is safe. And green routinely does mean danger towards the player. So as the player progresses, they will pick up their first torch. And I want them to look through these rooms to kind of discover if anything's going on. And I wanted there to be a slow build of suspense here, with these vents being very obviously line of sight, wondering what these could possibly mean as they're red. The intention of this gameplay beat here is a bloody glass door, and as you go past here, there's supposed to be a banging and screaming. And if you try and look further into it, there's nothing. Only a red door showing that the door's failsafe is broken, and that this door is now locked. So, uncertain of what could be in here, kind of alluding to being an organism in here, some sort of alien creature. And this is kind of supposed to create a false sense of security to the player, because green is commonly signified of being good, but with these vents, this could mean possible danger. So as the player progresses through the medbay, they get to their first open door, and the player, provided they try and go through this, I wanted their first encounter to be with the monster of this game, so the organism would run out of this room, and then go up through here, so the player would then immediately be startled, a little cutscene would play, and then they would then feel the dread of something else being here. And after that happens, I'd have this vent also open up, and this one, and some hatchlings to drop down, kind of forcing the player to make a reaction, either going through here, which would be... I want this to immediately lock when the alien's detected, because of unidentified organism is detected on board. So the player will have to look through and pick up this, which is a power cell, and these can be used to power otherwise turned off things. So when this door locks, the player can use this and go through, take the power cell with them. The beat for this area, introducing the player into a bigger room, is hearing a loud metal funk, and the organism is now in this room and it is patrolling and attempting to detect the player. It makes quite a large metal thudding noise and also howling every time it's trying to detect the player. And whenever it howls as a player, you have to stop moving or move crouched to move very slowly. So I wanted the player to kind of sneak around here. This door's still closed. Yeah, the idea was that the organism was going to play on these pillars and kind of slink around the room, forcing the player to move around. The player has to take this power cell and take it to the door. Oh, one thing to mention is the viewpoint from the beginning of the game shows the exit here, which is just, I think, a good design feature. And the player here can see some mangled arms in this trap doorway, and they'll get their gun, and then they can use the fuel cell on this to start a encounter where alarms will start ringing and the organism will leave or be panicked, and it will give you an option to shoot shots into it and it will leave, and then the lights will turn off, and then the hatchlings will start pouring in through the doors that were otherwise locked, giving you a little wave to hold the line for 30 seconds. And then when that happens, you can then go through and head towards the maintenance bay. I wanted quite a lot of use of parallaxing because I believe it's quite a good way to incentivize player movement, and showing off things slightly but without actually letting the player see is a lot more of a valuable technique. For example, this is essentially just a door. That's the only way of progression in this area, but because it's a vent in scaffolding of a small bit of light, I think this is a lot more appealing as a option as a player. This will be the objective, to try and open this area. The player will not be able to go through this this hatch because there is a body trapped on the other side, so the player will be forced to take this power cell and put it into this hatch to gain access, as well as this thing now being locked down due to a fire. I think it's a good idea to allow the player to know what their primary and secondary objective is at all times. So I allow the player to come and check out the hangar and see what's happening within it. And the intention for this mission is to repair one of these repair ships and repair the Vostok Icarus from outdoors, and also get the train back running so you can try to get to the other parts of the ship to see what's going on. I liked using these vents routinely, kind of hidden, just to let the player know that there is danger, and it gives some reasoning and allowances to allow the organism to move freely in the area. And later on I have it in this area, so it makes sense for have accessibility. This is the way to the train controls, just out of reach. Just kind of signifying to the player that they should be going this way, reiterating that this is the way to go, highlighting the power cell, and the player will be forced to take it over here. The player is supposed to be able to carry these blocks, but I don't have a interact toggle right now, so I would have to just push these. I apologize. And then you'll put the power key in here, and then into the vents. getting a viewpoint of inside the hangar. And these fans are supposed to be spinning, by the way. Some of them quicker than others. These ones are intended to be spinning too quickly for the player to ever go past, and these ones as well supposed to be very tricky to time. This one accessible, this one accessible, this one accessible, and then there'll be an enemy, sorry, not an enemy, an NPC down here that's on its last legs, kind of informing you that this area is quite dangerous and not to go further. And this one will be spinning too fast, forcing the player to go back the way they came. As you go through this area, you won't be allowed to interact with this because of the thermal vents. If you try, you'll get burnt and you'll be forced to back off. But I wanted to show the player that this will be an area of interaction later. And yeah, just the consistent viewpointing of things that will be important later on. One of the key design principles I had for this title was I wanted every area to feel like it was used for a certain reason in terms of actual spaceship design. So this ventilation chamber is relevant to the purification chamber down here, and it's also linked to the hangar, so the exhaust fumes can go through here, as well as all the oxygen and anything can go through here, and it gets cleaned by the thermal vents and the consistently spinning fans. So as you progress, this one will be spinning too quickly, and as a player, you're trying to reach the manual override, and this will drop you down into this area that you otherwise couldn't reach before. Seeing that body here again, and you'll then be dropped down into the nest with many of the hatchlings. But you'll have to just imagine that, because obviously there is no enemy AI or NPCs in this as of yet. Then you reach this maintenance ladder, and you're allowed to ascend up, giving you the option of backtracking towards where the maintenance, the manual override is, or accessing the train controls. For now, I'll go access the manual override first. And this would open up this door down there. This also being a point that's visible from down here. And I wanted the idea of the players, if they're looking around where to go, they'd see up here and the faint green light, and make relevance of this, and be informed that if you go through here and follow it around, you could end up here. And obviously a viewpointing of what this actually does, because if it didn't, you wouldn't have any idea what this does. So yeah, just more affordances to kind of have intentionality of my designs and letting people know what they're actually doing. Same with the lift up here, that's uninteractable, leads up to this maintenance room that you can't interact with. So a lift here, stairwell here that's closed, kind of making this area feel like it's an actual possible space and people do work and live in it. But obviously due to the circumstance, this is all locked down and you have to go through the maintenance tunnel. So this area is untrespassable because of the fire, so your job is to get the sprinklers activated. And usually it'd be over here, but due to the stairs falling, you can't access anymore. This just leads down to the door that's closed before. So a useful way to get to the hangar door, provided you want to. We'll go check out the fire. Another view of this vent here, just to kind of create some sense of fear in the player. But there would be no enemies in this area as of right now. Into the under chassis. And the player is tasked with grabbing this and trying to put it into the sprinkler. But obviously, as this one is uninteractable, the player has to go to the manual override for the sprinklers, and they're going to have to go through the rest of the under chassis, which is quite an intimidating area due to the low light and the thermal vents. And this area would be filled with a lot of hatchlings here, so the player is forced to go through this quite ominous route. And the player gets to this spot that they've seen before, put the energy thing on, rewriting the piping and allowing for the sprinklers to turn on again. I initially had piping in this area that went from that to that, but I thought it was a bit of an unnecessary detail, because I already had these little pipes along here. So just some affordances here of not making my game look too obvious, but still up for debate which one would be better there. And now the sprinklers will turn this fire off, so just imagine that turns off. And then the player gains access to the railway controls. And this will turn on the train, and then the player can then interact with the rest of the level later on. And now with the hangar door open, I would like the player to go down and interact with the ships and see what they can do there. The player would also have the option of interacting with the train and leaving, but obviously as a player you're probably going to go to the thing that's closest and that you've just unlocked access to. So when the player comes into here, I expect a loud noise to be playing and hatchlings to be kind of running around the hangar bay. So as you can see here, the cockpit latch is broken and the player has to fix this somehow. And an intentional viewpoint here is showing that the other side is okay. So the player can go either fix that one or repair this one. A lot of different ways to stealth around this. And when the player gets to about this point, I wanted the organism to go into the bridge and open up these hatches, letting in more hatchlings through the ventilation. And also, due to the hangar door opening, the area would turn into low gravity, so you'd have a low gravity moment of dealing with the hatchlings. So just a nice gameplay beat. And whilst you're dealing with that, or once you've done dealing with that, you can take this cockpit latch and then go fix the ship. I forgot to mention, by the way, one of the reasons why you want to fix this ship is because this is the only hangar bay that works, and this one is out of commission. So you're forced to try and fix this one. Just kind of a cheap way of making the player interact with this room. And the player would fix this, and then they'd go about trying to fix the engine parts, but due to not having any of this in the hangar bay, they're going to be forced to leave and interact with the train. Just to reiterate that the hangar doors only work this one. And then yeah, the player would access the train, and then they'd go seek out the truth on the rest of the ship. Alright, thank you everyone for watching.